Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Lights Camera Discussion podcast. My name is Massey1903, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, two gentlemen that look like they've been tore right out the pages of the Necronomicon. Guys, welcome in, Collie, and welcome in, Todd. How are we doing today?
All good, mate. You?
Good, thank you, Todd. You all right?
Yeah, Sam, mate, absolutely, Sam. I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah, same. Well, I mean, as you say, it is your episode. You're so excited for it. So, how about we just stop the fluff, get straight into it, and allow Todd to express himself positively. Todd, who are we talking about today? What films? Give us a bit of a background on the director.
Okay, so today we are talking about Fede Alvarez. So Fede Alvarez, full name Federico Javier Alvarez Matos, is a Uruguayan filmmaker best known for making genre films and often utilising a 4-act structure. In 2009, after premiering his short film Panic Attack, Ghost House Pictures offered Alvarez $30 to $40 million to direct an unannounced sci-fi film. That film would later be the first film we'll talk about. So today we're going to be talking about Evil Dead, the 2013 remake, Don't Breathe, The Girl in the Spider's Web, and Alien Romulus.
Excellent stuff. So the first one, as you say, is Evil Dead. Todd, let us know what Evil Dead's about, and take it away.
So, Evil Dead is a 2013 horror film considered to be a soft reboot, or the phrase that people are using now, requel, to the previous 3 Evil Dead films. Mia travels to her old family cabin with her friends and her brother in an attempt to shake her crippling substance addiction. When otherworldly forces are unleashed upon the cabin, everyone must fight for their lives or risk being dead by dawn.
Wow.
So, that one, I thought,
Incredible.
Happy with that
Incredible
one.
stuff. Good. Okay, well, I mean, Todd, initial thoughts on Evil Dead?
So this is, so I saw this at the cinema, back in the day, and it's now like a comfort film for me. Evil, I know, that is, it feels very strange to say that out loud when, anyway, yeah, I've watched it so many times, I know it like the back of my hand. It's, Evil Dead's one of my favourite franchises of all time, and I think it works, we'll get into it a little bit more, but it works because it sticks to a formula. It doesn't necessarily have to do everything that the originals do or whatever, but it sticks to a formula, works, and I love this film.
Good stuff. Collie, initial thoughts on Evil Dead?
So similar to Todd, I did see it in the cinema when it first came out, but I had no conceptions about the original franchise. I'd heard of it, obviously. I was more familiar with Sam Raimi from the Spider-Man series, and not really being a horror fan. At the time, I'd never went back to watch the original 3. I subsequently have, and I think this is a worthy entry into the series. I think it modernizes it to an extent. Some of the special effects and stuff, more so even the practical ones, are really, really well done. Some of the performances are a bit questionable, but I think that kind of leans into, again, having watched the original ones now, the cheesiness or the over-the-topness of it. But yeah, one of those horror films that I can say that I actually enjoy.
Good stuff. I didn't like it. I really did not like it. I have seen Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2. I've not seen Army of Darkness. And I really enjoyed what Evil Dead 2 did to Evil Dead 1, and it kind of let into a bit of silliness and was like the same but different. This just felt like your cliche horror film for me. The performances didn't do it for me. The writing was really bad. There's some lines that just took me completely out of the film. There's decisions that are made that made me feel like I was watching Cabin in the Woods, because it's like they were almost like the cliche horror films where a character makes a decision just to move the story on, and it just felt an abundance of that, and it just didn't hit for me at all. The practical effects and things I did think was really good, but the story as a whole just it did not do it for me at all. Okay, so let's go into the performances then. Now I know their colleague said that potentially some of the performances were questionable. I think that's putting it lightly. But we obviously had like the main sort of group of them. Jane Levy, Shiloh Fernandez, Jessica Lucas, Lou Taylor Pucci, Elizabeth Blackmore. What was your thoughts on the main sort of like group of them and how they got on?
So the main lassie, Jane Levy, is Maya. That was a bit kind of echoing what you said in terms of like that's kind of the cliche horror performance for me. Just some silly decisions and stuff at the time. I thought your man Eric's the one with the glasses and stuff like that. He was probably my favorite performance of it, and it kind of reminded me of like, yeah, he did stupid stuff by reading from the book because you would never do that, but in a way it reminded me of your man from the original Scream film, who's like, this is the horror movie and this is how the format is and stuff like that. That's like the meta kind of thing. So I enjoyed that from that kind of perspective. The brother was just like a standard kind of dude. I believe they fleshed out his girlfriend more originally, but then that got cut from the script, so she was just kind of like a passenger. So yeah, like overall kind of bog standard, like nothing out of the norm performance wise, but I guess I would praise so Lou Taylor Pucci is Eric. I thought his performance was pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he was probably the standard for me, even though Mia was meant to be the sort of like the obviously the main character and who the sort of story revolved around. But I agree. I thought Eric was the more I suppose interesting character as well, because we kind of knew what Mia's backstory was because they told us like 40 times right at the start that, you know, she had a drug problem, and that we can't leave her alone and all that sort of stuff. They made sure that we were aware of that. So it was good to see someone do something slightly different. But yeah, I just thought in general, I thought it was bad performance after bad performance. Really, it really didn't do it for me. As I said at the start, it just felt super cliched. And a reference Cabin in the Woods. Obviously, that is, if you've not seen it, you know, I'm talking to anyone who hasn't seen it. It's an obviously satire on these sort of like horror films. The sort of group of kids go away to a cabin and evil befalls them
in the woods.
In the woods, cabin in the woods. But they are set out to be cliches of each sort of type of character that we get, and it just felt like that, and that's what annoyed me. Todd, let's be a bit more positive.
Yeah, so the performances and stuff for me, I'm really surprised about Jane Levy, Levy, how you felt about it, because there's a bit in this film where she puts the fear in me every time I watch it, and it's the bit in the bedroom where she's hidden. She's sure that there's something in the house with her, and she's whispering, and I've not seen fear on a face like that in a film. She's whispering, and it's stunted sentences, and she's like, there is something in here with us now. And I feel similarly to that about, go back and listen to our Edgar Wright episode and listen to me talk about how I feel about Black Sheep. What's it, Clash of Demon Head singing Black Sheep? Like, that's how I feel about that scene. I could rewatch that time and time again. I think she's fantastic in it. And maybe that's me going in expecting schlocky B movie sort of like thing, because that's what Evil Dead is. One thing I will say though about the characters, and Massey, you said and we were reminded 70,000 times that she's got a drug problem. One thing that I do have an issue with Alvarez is that his writing is sometimes overly exposition-y, and it does just because I will forget. In this, she's like, "Oh, my big brother," and then in Alien Romulus, he's like, "Sorry about my cousin," and it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. But I do also think, is that possibly not a language barrier sort of thing, because obviously Fede can speak English absolutely fine, but is that something?
Well, I think there's a mention of a few of his scripts where in IMDb and that they had to not get rewritten, but they were passed via another person to anglicize them or whatever to make sure that sentences were flowing and the translations were correct, because he must write them in Spanish and then they'll get translated to be performed or whatever, so stuff can get lost in translation. So maybe that is it was something. I just found her nothing out of the norm from what I expected from a horror performance. And And it's interesting, just a bit on the trivia. Gillian Jacobs auditioned for the role, which I thought was quite interesting. I mean, I'm not a fan of hers personally, but I know that you guys are being in Community and stuff. I hate her in Community. Like, she's one of the reasons I don't like Community. But I just thought that would be interesting. But then when I thought of it, I was like, surely she's a bit older. But then this film's like 12 years ago, so maybe. But even like in Community, I felt like she was an older woman than you're trying to portray here, perhaps. But yeah,
she was
it would have been interesting, but I probably would have hated it more. So.
Yeah, I mean, she was actually in a horror franchise. She was in Fear Street, the Netflix sort of 3, and she was like the older kind of person in that, like the sort of motherly kind of thing. So yeah, it would have been an interesting decision to have her. On talk about the script, I think I read somewhere that this one was actually kind of almost checked over by, is it Diablo Cody, the one that wrote Juno? I think she tightened it up or like sorted out like the like some of the dialogue and stuff like that. So yeah, that.
Well, was it her or Fede that wrote, "Kiss me, you dirty cunt"? You know what I mean? Like, who wrote that line? So that's all the quotes that I've got written. It's just like all her like expletive ones about like your sister being something in hell and that. Like,
yeah.
Well, I was going to say let's not get completely demonetized, but as if we get money from this on YouTube. But
oh god, I mean, feel free if you've got some more quotes there that you want to share with us.
No, it's just those two, and then the feast on this motherfucker, which I think is amazing. I love that. And just a bit on the end scene. I know we're kind of moving away from the performances and more just into like overall thoughts, but they used 70,000 gallons of fake blood during this film, and during that last scene, 50,000 of the 70,000 was what was used.
So cool, is it? Like,
and I thought what was cool is that they filmed it like sequentially. Almost, like, I think they filmed it like from start to finish. So if there was a scene and there was like blood splattered on the wall and stuff, like they didn't have to remove that and then add it back if they were filming scenes back and forth. So I thought from a continuity perspective that was quite smart as well. Not that you'd like, it's a dingy cabin, not that you'd really like notice of that, but I just thought from a budget perspective, I thought it was quite smart. It's just quite a big film for him to have been handed, I think, off the bat of a YouTube video, for lack of a better description of it. So yeah, I thought he was quite smart in doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, kind of going to the back of that, one of the things that I did find positive was the sort of technical aspect of it and the things like the practical effects and some of the ways it was shot. There were some moments that I thought it did lean into the sort of the grim ugliness, which I understand why, because of the sort of the material and what it was doing. But I think overall, technically, it was well sort of made. Was there anything, Todd, that stood out for yourself technically wise? I know you said about practical effects and stuff.
So 2013 as well, and that sort of 2009 to 2015-ish, that era of films, horror films in particular, was so CGI heavy that like it was blatantly obvious, where I don't think there's a lot in this where you can see that's clearly CGI'd, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, if it's practical, it's enhanced. So there's a few. The box cutter, the Stanley knife on the tongue is one of, like, I don't wince at gore and stuff very often, but that was a struggle to watch. And I think for me, it's all about the practical. That end scene with the rain and blood, and even a hand stuck under that Jeep and pulling at that, you're there with it. Like, it phenomenal. Even like the burning skin when she's in the shower, and it's just like,
oh yeah, it's horrible. The blistering and stuff like that.
Yeah. From a cinematography point of view, I think there's a lot. Like, I love that as a fan of the franchise, the drone shot, or like the tracking shot through the woods. Like, they always have that. It's always going to be there, and I really hope there's it's 2026 is the new Evil Dead films coming out, and I really hope that they keep certain elements of that in. I think like you say, I think a lot of it was sort of bog standard 2010s horror in terms of like how it's shot. I have no issue with that, but again, and I think this is what it comes back to for me, is I don't come to these films for like sparkling story, or like the cinematography was good, but there was nothing that like shocked me. It was more, like you say, from a practical standpoint, watching that blood and guts and gore.
And that's your comfort.
and that is my comfort. Something happened to me. Even I tell you, even the when she's sort of fighting against the. When it's just her left, and she's hiding in the tool shed in the wall, and it's digging the machete through the wall, and it cuts a leg. Even shots like that, where you've got this really confined space, and again, something that Fede does really well is that one shot look. I know we're on first name terms; it's fine. One location films. He gets that sense of like closeness and claustrophobia, and I think that works really well. Like, I feel like I know how the cabin's set out. I feel like I know where we're at with it, and that worked really well as well. That's sure.
Fair enough. Collie, anything to add on effects? Anything that stood out for yourself with that?
No, just like a lot of the gore and stuff was well done. Nothing like Todd says, nothing flashy or out of the ordinary, but I thought it was all well executed.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Anything else you want to add then? I think it's one of those films where like it's for me anyway, it was kind of limited in what it did, the technical side of things we spoke about. Obviously the performances maybe not, the sort of like blooded stuff is kind of the main sort of star of the show, I suppose, in a film like this.
I could sit here now and do a full hour's episode on why I loved each kill and why I tell you what I do love, technical aspect as well, is what they did with the drawings from the Necronomicon. And like the design of that, like, when they're talking about how to kill the demon and what happens, the picture of that, of the woman covering herself in the boiling water, and like the dismemberment and stuff. I love that. I think, again, taking that design. The other thing I do love is, when Mia gets back up with the shotgun and she shoots, and the wind comes in, like that really forceful wind, and that voice says, you will die like the others before you. One by one, we will take you. That's a sound clip from the original. Like, that's a sound clip from the original film. And they do that. They sort of harken back to the originals, and I love that. I think even if you didn't enjoy it, and obviously you didn't, Massey, if you go back and kind of, now you've watched this, now watch the originals. That Fede Alvarez, we'll use his full name, has such reverence for it and such love for the franchise. Like, he hasn't just gone in and, like so many that we've seen before, made some shitbag horror film where like it was just chucked together without any care for the. Do you know what I mean? There is still a hand goes missing. There's still a chainsaw. There's still a shotgun. And we still, even after the credits, get Bruce Campbell saying groovy, which was ridiculous, but I enjoyed it. Anyway,
I mean,
yeah.
I will say for that side of things then, and we will talk about this later on because there's another film that obviously he does use that kind of attention to detail for previous films and things. I do think you can tell that he obviously like has an affinity to these sort of like the originals and things like that, which is fair enough. But yeah, just didn't really work for me. Didn't do it. Anything else you want to talk about with Evil Dead or anything? Was it a perfect film for yourself then, Todd? Was it? You think there's nothing wrong with it? Yeah.
I'll wait till the rate. Ask him for his rating, and then
I know.
I was
just gonna say, like, there was a lot of things about it that obviously I didn't like, and a lot of the time it was I touched on as well about she's a drug addict and we can't leave her and blah blah. One of the things that really pissed me off was the constant incessant that she was having a panic attack. They shoot her and she vomits blood at them, and they're still thinking, ooh, she's having a panic attack. Well, she's like, her tongue is in half and marching towards them, screaming that she's going to drag them to hell and do whatever. And they're still insistent that she's having a panic attack. Like, things like that just really took me out of it and really annoyed me. You touched on the ending there as well, Todd, with Bruce Campbell doing his little groovy, like, pointless, like, added absolutely nothing. The dog as well, like, what was that all about? Like, that didn't need to happen. It's just, some of it felt gory for the sake of being gory, and I know that's probably what it was trying to do, but yeah. one of the quotes I've got as well is when Mia was obviously taken over by the demon, and she said, I think it was to the brother, the demon says, "Mia's not here, you fucking idiot." Like, the demon is the only sane one in this whole film. Is what I got from that. So yeah, that's my kind of final thoughts on.
It's the line right before that makes me laugh. Is, "Why don't you come down here so I can suck your cock, pretty boy?" And he goes, "Mia?" Question mark. I'm like, oh yeah, like, yeah, cool. You know.
Yeah.
Can I finish on a positive?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah. That cold open is fucking class into a rock hard title card. Like, that was mint.
Maybe said rock hard like that.
Yeah, sorry, that was a bit much. I'll try
Just
myself back. Let's do the ratings. Jesus.
Yeah. Let's do the ratings. So, Todd, what did you rate it?
I rated it 5 stars, and when we get to the ranking, I will sort of explain myself.
Okay, Collie?
I give it a 4.
Fair enough. 1.5 for me. Okay, so the next film, Todd, what is it? What's it about?
So, our next film is Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe is a 2016 horror crime film with Fede Alvarez working with Jane Levy for the second time. Rocky, Alex, and Money break into a blind army vet's house to steal from him in a classic one last big heist scenario. The trio get more than they bargained for when they are left breathless in a dangerous game of cat and mouse.
Excellent. Initial thoughts, Todd?
Really enjoy it. Not a comfort film, but is a regular, especially like Halloween, October. This is a regular watch for me. I think it does. What Alvarez does is he takes what he did with Evil Dead and sort of turns it so it's not like the blood and guts and gore as much this time. There is a moment in this film that made me go west. It sent me west, I'll be honest. But largely, it's more about it's more of a thriller with that horror sort of tinge to it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think performances again and the script aren't everything that we want, and I'll get to that. But yeah, really enjoy it.
Collie?
So I'd never seen this before. Before started watching stuff for this episode, it did get recommended a while back by our good friend Jamie. It was on a recommended list to get round to watching, so I'm glad I got the opportunity. I enjoyed it. It's one of those ones though that you kind of have to suspend belief a little bit, of course. But I enjoyed it from a horror perspective. The darkness, a lot of the scenes was really effective. The kind of I don't know if that was totally to try and obviously you're dealing with a blind character here. That was to kind of minimize your visibility of the film as well. I thought the performances overall were really good. I quite like Jane Levy, to be honest, in this compared to Evil Dead. And it was just interesting, I think, for Fede Alvarez to go into an original piece of work rather than a requel or whatever we're calling it for Evil Dead. So overall enjoyed.
Good stuff. Yeah, it was better than Evil Dead. That was the first thing I wrote as well. Please be better than Evil Dead, and it was. There was a lot of things that I thought it did right. There was a lot of things that it did wrong. A couple issues I had with casting. I couldn't help finding myself comparing it to Hush, another kind of horror film where someone who's physically disabled or physically impaired, with a sense that they couldn't use, and that's maybe hurt it more because I felt Hush did it loads better. I know it's a different thing, obviously. If you've not seen Hush, it's to do with she can't hear. This one, he can't see. I just felt there could have been times where the visual impairment was used a bit more inventive and different to show us things, but yeah, it was fine. It was okay. It was my first time watching it, yeah, I, as I say, it's better than Evil Dead for me. High praise, very high praise. Obviously, there's like a main group of actors. Stephen Lang is a blind man. Jane Levy, as we spoke about. Dylan Minnette and Daniel Zavato are the main sort of four that are kind of almost carrying the film essentially. Collie, what were your thoughts on those characters and their actors?
I thought Stephen Lang was really, really good in terms of a ominous kind of baddie for the film. But it's, I guess it's a bit to do with his performance, a bit to do with the writing. But you are sympathetic towards him for a wee bit at least until that twist, which completely got me. Comes around, but I thought he was really good. Again, Levy I thought was a lot better in this. Her performance in particular when his money is the guy that he kills, right? And she's like right there, but I thought that was really good. Her kind of horror, you know, I guess for lack of a better term, that was solid. Dylan Minette's an all right actor, like he's in quite a lot and does what he needs to do. But I enjoyed him. I thought he was complimentary to the cast. So overall, solid performances, a bit more quote unquote believable than some of them in Evil Dead. But there was no Eric, so points taken away for that.
Okay, so Todd, the actors, and what were your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed Jane Levy in this. Again, like you say, the bit where Money gets shot was really impactful. When she's searching in the dark, and I know we'll get to the technical aspects of it, but I thought she was excellent in there, and her reaction to the midpoint twist made that moment even more shocking than it already gets. The big one for me, Stephen Lang, like he feels like the Xenomorph. He feels like sort of, you know, like Nemesis in Resident Evil 3. Like he feels like that ever-present figure that's never going to leave them alone, and he does it so well. His voice as well, that sort of melancholy, like I don't know how to explain it other than it just being so sad and so deep as well. Like it works really well. My issues with this film, there's one big thing story-wise that we'll talk about later on, but Daniel Zavato's Money feels like a cheap Jesse Pinkman. Like he tries to be like over-the-top gangster, and it doesn't work. Like he makes me cringe, and I'm pleased that, you know, again, spoilers, he dies quite early on. Like we don't have to deal with him for much longer. Cheering for the blind man. Not for much longer though. And then and that Daniel Minette, he's just a bit wet, and like that's his character, I suppose, but like he doesn't bring much to the character himself. He was fine, like it didn't take me out of it. I thought, like I say, Stephen Lang and Jane Levy were the standouts and sort of carried the film. I would have liked it from a story perspective, and I know if there were more characters. I don't know how we do this, but I feel like there should be more characters. And one of my issues with this film is the survivability of every character except Money. Everybody survives the most ridiculous shit. So if you want these things to happen, that like move the story forward, because I understand why they have to. Give me another character. Give me somebody who stumbles into the house. Give me somebody who hears about it and wants to get involved. I don't know, but like, or you know, the man that they sell the stuff to, the fence. Like, bring him in. Do something that like drops the survivability rate a little bit, so we can kill people off and still keep the film moving. So that's my main gripe, and I think there's a lot put on Alex and Money to keep that moving. So maybe that's an issue as well.
That's a very good point, actually. Because that was one of the things that pissed me off as well, is like the way that they survive some of the stuff. Like when you were saying there about having someone else come in, similar to like a barbarian or something like that, you know, where it kind of like switches up halfway and their character comes in and it just kind of keeps the stakes higher. I think that's a very good point. But I completely agree with both of you in terms of the cast. Dylan Minette just felt super miscast for me. Like he didn't fit what they were doing. I understand that to have like a guy that, you know, is able to work security alarms and stuff, he's going to be like a nerdy sort of guy, because he can't be anything else if it's to do with computers and IT and stuff. I totally get that. Money, I completely agree with you. He was just cringe most of the time. And his relationship with Jane Levy as well, it didn't feel real to me. But yeah, absolutely. I think Stephen Lang as the blind man and Jane Levy were definitely the two standouts for this film for me. And I think it was harsh that it was on them to kind of carry it. And I think that's part of the issue with me, is that it was just basically them doing the heavy lifting. But yeah, I totally, I think, Todd, your point on having someone else there to make the survivability just slightly more realistic would have helped this film massively.
Somewhat, sorry, just on one word of the casting. Somebody who, like, I think I compare to Dylan Minnette in a little way, but he's like a better version of him is Logan Lerman. So I think he would be quite good. He's been like Perks of Being a Wallflower, and he was in that the Nazi series on Prime and stuff like that. I think he just is like a version of Dylan Minnette, but like a better version of him. So I think he would have just been a bit more charismatic and believable, perhaps, in the role. Wet is probably a good term to describe him. He's just there saying his lines, and that's about it.
And fawning over Rocky the whole time, and yeah. So I mean, we kind of touched on obviously twists and stories and stuff. Todd, take us through the twist and what your thoughts were on that.
I mean, from a story perspective, I thought it was phenomenal because we were rooting for this guy because these three people are a piece of shit. And if you haven't seen the film and you needed explaining, just very briefly, his daughter is dead. And the reason his daughter is dead is because a young woman killed her in her car. So he kidnaps her and impregnates her to give him another daughter. But he's not a rapist. He says this a number of times. You are, pal. Like, let's get that out of the way. You absolutely are. But do you know what? I think it's genius because then you don't know. It just flips the film on its head. It just completely turns it to being like, I want these people to survive now because this guy's a piece of shit. But then they break into people's. It leaves everything so morally grey. The only issue I have with Fede Alvarez, again, did we really need a slow motion, close-up shot of turkey basters going into... I know that's a little bit further on from the midpoint, but, like, do we need that? Do we need to see that? Did it need to be so realistic that my Letterboxd review, just because I didn't want to spoil it for this, was there is a pube in the turkey baster? Like, do we really need that level of detail? No, I'm sat there giving away, mate. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. And I saw this at the cinema, so I got to see this on the biggest screen. I don't know how. Like I say, I laugh and I joke about it, but in terms of a story perspective, I thought it was genius. I genuinely think it was so clever, because it just leaves you with sort of like, where do I go? Who do I root for? I don't know how you two felt about it.
I mean, personally, I think using genius in this instance is a travesty. I think it was fucking stupid. I thought it was. It almost ruined the film for me. I enjoyed the intensity building up to it, and I think the twist was there for the sake of making it so that we didn't like this blind guy. I think it was. It felt like amateur to me, and just compounded by the overly graphic turkey baster things and stuff like that. It didn't hit for me at all. I hated it. I thought it was a terrible twist. Collie?
I wouldn't say I hated it, but I just felt it shoehorned it a little bit. I don't know what I would like. Obviously, I can't write like a better twist than that or whatever. I don't know what I'd expect, but it was just it took me out a little bit of it. And what I think Todd maybe said the word believability, and obviously, like, you're supposed to spend belief in these films, but it just took it that little bit too far for me. It was just a bit daft, but again, like, I think it works within the film, but it just didn't add anything to me, and it kind of brought it down a little bit from, oh, really? Oh, okay, cool, I guess.
That's fair.
I'm there giving it like, yeah, fist bump and that.
I think for me as well, the problem for it, or the problem with it, sorry, as well, was what happened after. It seemed to be that he was almost superhuman in that he knew where they were at times. He could shoot them before they got to just that last moment of almost escaping, or when they got away. Then the dog appears at the window of the car, which is like miles away from the house. He's able to like drag her like from her body back to the house. That the twist was bad, and then the after part made it worse for me.
Like this all ties into this level of survivability for me. Like, as in, how many times? Like, so when he falls through the when he falls, are they getting away? And Alex is at the door, and as he opens the door, he gets shot in the back, and he's there again.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, get the police involved. Even, do you know what? It would probably piss me off, but it would probably work better if they've set up this area that this guy lives in to be this awful sort of like hovel type thing. What if there's another person who's thought about this? Do you know what I mean? Who's trying to break in? Like, again, it's adding world and adding characters, and this is why this is lower for me, because I have a great time with it. I really enjoy it, but there's so much to pick at it. I kind of I find enjoyment in other elements of it.
Like the turkey baster.
Yeah, why not? Let's just. It's not quite a comfort film because of the turkey baster. Everything else would have sent me straight to sleep.
Oh, me. Anything else you guys want to talk about with this film, do you think? I think we kind of covered.
Todd, have you seen the sequel to it?
I have not. And main reason I haven't is because of the trailer, and I know we shouldn't judge films by the trailers, but it makes it look like they're going to make this guy be the hero of the film, and I'm really not comfortable with that. Like,
right.
After that midpoint twist, I don't know. I'll watch it. I might watch it after this. And let you know. But no, I've not seen it. Have either of you two watched it?
No.
Don't be silly.
You never know.
It's the guy who writes with Fede Alvarez that directed the sequel, though. I think. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll watch it at some point, but I'm in no rush to.
No, there's other things on my list that do you know what I mean?
A lot of other things on my list.
Way down there. Just a couple of things. Again, I'll go positive. I'll finish positive. I think the introduction to the house again, when I talked about like that single location and like that sort of track and shot through the house as they following them, and it's a little bit like visual cues of like, remember the safe is there, remember that, and I like that. There's a lot of stuff that Fede Alvarez does that's hand-holdy, but I didn't feel like that was hand-holdy. It was just kind of like, this is where we're at, get a sense of where you are. And I thought the dark scene in the basement where he's like running through and like hitting the bell and touching the ceiling to like remind himself of where he is in the basement was great. And I was always under the impression that was shot in the dark. That was like done, and it turns out it was shot in complete light, and they put contact lenses in to blind the actors so that they could still like shoot it and then like change the color grading of it. But like, I just think that was so well done, and it was so tense. And because this film gets ridiculous, because the survivability is through the roof, you don't know when people are going to be jumping out. You don't know when people are going to get grabbed and die, because it just could keep going and going and going. And again, to the film's detriment at times, but I thought that darkness scene was fantastic.
Good stuff. Okay, shall we do ratings then?
Let's.
Collie?
I gave it a 3.5.
Fair enough. Todd?
I give it a 4.
Cool. I gave it 2.5.
I think my 3.5 was a bit generous, but I'm still happy with it.
Fair enough. If you're happy with it, that's all that matters, sir. Okay, let us move on to the next one in Fede Alvarez's filmography. Todd, take it away.
So, the next film is The Girl in the Spider's Web, which is a 2018 action thriller starring Claire Foy as Lisbeth Salander. When Lisbeth steals a computer program belonging to the NSA, she finds herself tangled in a web of gangs, government agents, and people from her past.
Good stuff. Todd, initial thoughts?
So this, if you listen back to the last episode, where I didn't even know this film existed, so I'm aware of like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I've never seen them. I've never watched any of them, but I'm aware that they exist. I didn't know that this was a thing. First watch. I feel like I've seen it a million times before, but just done so much better in every single way. Performances, story, which is a surprise as well. And I know I've used this already this weekend, but to have a cast like this and fumble a film so badly is shocking, because there is some actors in this film. Yeah, wasn't a fan at all, and it's something I won't be watching again.
I'll also go next. Hated it. Absolutely despised it. In the way that I wanted Don't Breathe to be better than Evil Dead, and this was worse than Evil Dead for me. Like, it was just stupid story. It looked cold and uninspiring. There was story choices that didn't make sense. As you say, the actors that were in it were just completely wasted. I was baffled that this was made, and I actually wish I was like you, Todd, and didn't know it existed, and still to this day didn't know it existed. Collie?
So I am a fan of like the series. Like, I've read the original 3 books. I've never read any of the books that were released subsequently. So this being one of them. Enjoyed the original 3 films. I actually really enjoyed Fincher's one. So Noomi Rapace and Rooney Mara playing Lisbeth are both excellent in the role, and I thought Claire Foy was like so miscast. I just didn't buy her as Lisbeth like at all. Overall, I thought the film was rubbish, but having not read the book, I don't know how much is that based on the book's not very good, or if it's the film or whatever. After this, I might go and read the book just to see, the comparisons or whatever. But yeah, poorly shot film. I can't believe this is Fede Alvarez, to be completely honest. And yeah, one standout was Stephen Merchant, but purely just because it's Stephen Merchant.
Yeah,
I was like that Leo meme, because I didn't look at the cast list before I watched it. I was like that Leo meme. I was like, oh, Stephen Merchant, what the hell? But yeah, this is during his brief foray into Hollywood films, I think, because he did like Logan, and like within a couple of years of this, and this and a few other things and stuff. He did that. What was that really creepy TV show he did? It was based on the serial killer.
Ladies.
The guy. No. It was based on it was like a short. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was like based on a true crime guy, basically a guy that was like date raping dudes and murdering them. He played him, and he was like so creepy and so good in it. But anyway, that's by the by. I love Stephen Merchant. I thought that was cool, but that was one of the only cool things in this film.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad we're kind of all on the same page now with this one. It makes you feel a lot better. Okay, so I mean, we touched on obviously the cast, the fact that it was obviously misused. Let me just again run through some of the names that we have here. Claire Foy, as you say, as Lisbeth. We've got Lakeith Stanfield here. We've got, as you say, Stephen Merchant as well. What were your thoughts? I mean, I know obviously you're saying the miscast and things, but what was it that sort of, made it that way for yourself? Collie, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So just if we're talking about Lisbeth in particular, the way that Noomi Rapace and I'd say even personally more like Rooney Mara player are like super like disconnected, like quite sinister at times, but like super smart. And Claire Foy, it's such a weird thing to say, but her eyes are too big. Like, I just find her eyes like really doe-eyed at times. And I think obviously we spoke about her previously in First Man, as Armstrong's wife and stuff in it. Like, an amazing performance, but she just looks too nice a person to play Lisbeth, and Lisbeth is a right bastard of a woman. Like, if you read the books and watch the other films. Have you seen Fincher's Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Massey? No,
I'm not saying no.
Well, maybe save that for if we ever do Fincher down the line. I wouldn't like rush to see it if we want to keep it fresh for that, because we should do him at one point. But yeah, she's just not evil enough, or like convincing in that role. And even Sphere Goodnasson as Blomqvist, who is Daniel Craig's character in that, I just didn't really believe him either. I just didn't buy. So they're like the main 2 characters, kind of. Didn't really like her sister either. I thought that twist, and again, that's more maybe about the book, was a bit shit, but I just didn't really buy her like adult sister acting, Sylvia Hoeks, however you say it. I thought Lakeith Stanfield was good though. I did really like him. And yeah, Stephen Merchant again. But yeah, the standout cast wise, Lakeith Stanfield. Sorry, I forgot about him when we initially said our thoughts. He was very good.
Yep, I totally agree. I think Lakeith Stanfield is the one that comes out with passing grades. Yeah, so again, I've not seen any films before. I've not read any of the books before. But it just felt it kind of in the way when we spoke about the Predator, how the kid was an autistic kind of caricature. And there's obviously again an autistic kid in this, and I believe is Elizabeth meant to be autistic as well or something.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So like it just felt that caricature-esque sort of thing, and it annoyed me. It just felt kind of insensitive at points. What also I found weird was, and again, for having not seen the films, this is a sequel, isn't it, to Fincher's films? But it's just that with them being recast, as far as I'm aware.
I think that was the initial plan, but I can't
Okay.
remember if they subsequently said that. No, it's not. It's like just a standalone film.
Right, because there was like, again, there was things
like
from
all the stuff, like all the stuff that's happened in Fincher's film, aka the original three, have happened.
yes, yeah,
But they're not like for like or whatever.
right. Because it just felt that like there wasn't the chemistry between the two, or like it didn't feel. From what I gathered from the story, he had written a thing about her that had boosted his career, and he'd obviously spent time with her before and stuff, and it didn't feel like they had that any sort of like familiarity with each other. So that just felt like a weird duo. You're absolutely right. The sister, she felt like in Resident Evil, there's like random people that pop, like the old Resident Evil games. There's like random like big names from Umbrella, the corporation, that would just pop up and say something sinister. She just felt like that without having any sort of like character behind her and stuff as well. And yeah, Steve Merchant was sort of wasted. There was a moment, like, and again, this is slightly different because I'm sort of going off a tangent here. There's a moment when Steve Merchant gets killed, and he puts his hand up. And his kid is in the shower next to him, and he gets shot straight on, and his hand turns and goes to the shower and goes down, and that just felt to me like really poor filmmaking. Like for someone who's such an attention to detail person, there's no way that if he's getting shot head on like that, his hand would turn, go like that, and slide down. Like just something as little as that, I'm like, it made me annoyed that he did that. But yes, Lakeith Stanfield, I thought he was good. And that's it. Todd, thoughts on the cast?
Yeah, so in my notes, I've got Stephen Merchant with an exclamation mark, and then Lakeith Stanfield, and like it made me really hopeful because obviously they're introduced quite early on, and like I say, I'm a big fan of Stephen Merchant anyway in terms of what he's done, and like watched Jojo Rabbit recently, like he's in that for about 4 minutes and he's phenomenal. Lakeith Stanfield genuinely is one of those actors who I don't think gets. I know he was nominated alongside Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah. Like that to me is a generational performance. Those two together were amazing, and to have him being the best thing about this film and still just being like, okay, like nothing really took me, nothing really like took me by surprise or anything with him was such a shame. Claes Bang, who has the coolest name in the world, he was Dracula in the BBC series, and he plays a villain like that sort of foreboding, ominous villain so well. 90% of the time his face was covered up. Then he was just wasted. He's so good, and he was wasted. And the other one I want to touch on is again, I apologise if I butcher her name. Is it Vicky Creeps? Who plays like
Sure.
so she's yeah
yeah.
so she's the one who's in the office at the beginning where he's like, do you want to where Blomkist's like, do you want to have dinner? And she's like, oh, I can't. Oh no, I need to see you tonight, so I'm having dinner with my husband. She can act. She hasn't shown it in Old because that was dog shit as well, but she can really act. And again, you're like, and Claire Foy, last thing, in terms of action hero, because it is an action film, in terms of she just doesn't have that presence, and that's not a dig at, it is miscast. But if I think about like, if you'd have said to me Brie Larson was going to be like a part of the MCU and really like be a superhero, I wouldn't have believed it. The same with Felicity Jones in Rogue One. Like, I wouldn't have believed it. And then here they come, just absolutely kicking the shit out of those roles, and yet she just didn't do it. She didn't hold that well enough. And I have no knowledge of the books, no knowledge of other films. That it was really miscast, and where it was well cast, they were wasted. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. In terms of sort of story and effects and things, there was obviously quite a few big set pieces or meant to be big set pieces. What were your thoughts on kind of the story and how it handled those sort of big moments, Collie?
There was only one real cool shot in it that I thought, and it was when I think it's when you first meet Lakeith Stanfield. There's like a tracking shot through the office and stuff like that as like she's hacking in and that. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought the rest of it was shite. The motorbike across the ice looked terrible. The car crash at the end with the sister looked terrible. It reminded me of I've pushed the name of the film at my head.
Mila
What was
Perez.
the Mila Perez? It reminded me of that at the end of that car crash. I thought the sniping bit was fucking stupid as well.
Mhm.
Like the way it was like tracking the people through the building. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, it's cool, but I don't really get it. Yeah, there's nothing really that stood out for me. The only shot I was just like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Was that tracking shot through the office, which was pretty cool, but like not like amazing either.
Yeah, I agree. I did quite enjoy the airport part where it was like kind of following him through like with the doors and that. It
True.
was very sort of coincidental, like how she managed to open it for him just to come out and be behind the guy that was holding the gun to her and being able to save her and stuff. But I thought that whole sequence was, in a film that is so boring, I thought it was an interesting part. So it maybe felt better than it was, but like for me, I kind of got a bit of enjoyment out of that part. The moment at the start, I would say, with her standing in front of the big angel wings and getting on at the guy. So that's obviously right at the start. That took me straight out of it. The fact that she was the silver bits over her eyes apparently meant to be like I don't know if that was like a disguise or what, but it just felt stupid. I really didn't enjoy that part either. But yeah, like I say, the airport. And again, I'm keep jumping about because I'm annoyed at it. But like you said, Collie, like the bike across the ice for me, that again, if I thought I was going out, if I had opened the door to exit the building, once I saw the motorbike on the ice, I was across the country. I was out of there. Yeah, I thought it was
a convoluted way to go about that.
Oh, Todd.
There were there's two fight scenes in a bathroom. I don't know what it is about bathrooms, but it's the first one was there was moments of it where like it did sort of the bird's eye view shot, and I was like, oh, this is going to be good, and then it went away and it became messy again. You know, like in one of the middle Transformers films where like you can't see what action's going on because there's just so much shit happening on the screen. Like you've got this really clean shot from a bird's eye view of this fight in the bathroom, and I was like, leave it there. Do a sort of like old boy type thing where you can see everything really cleanly, and then it goes back down to the floor and then back up. It was just so messy. I thought the eye makeup. I'm with you. That felt weird, but the wings thing I've written down cool shot with wings. I quite liked it. It was just that sort of like, oh, she's a badass, and this is like, do you know what I mean? Like she's the savior type thing. I thought that was cool. I've written lovely shots of settings, but nothing life changing. Like there was moments where like you'd sort of pan over like an area and be like, okay, we're here. I get where we're at. That's fine. There wasn't anything in terms of like that really stood out. And I think the problem for me is just as a sort of behind the scenes type thing. I could watch a film 6 or 7 times and write 10 pages of notes and still be like, fuck, I'm not going to be like, my mind's going to go blank. I'm not going to have enough to talk about. Like, I panic like that. With this film, it was so forgettable. Like, and I've watched it twice in the last 2 days, and I couldn't tell you the majority of what happens because it was just like, so what? Like, I I got bored and I think that's the most egregious thing, is that I got so bored that I was just like, right, it didn't have anything for me. It didn't do anything for me. So yeah, nothing else to add on top of
that. So deflated. Collie, anything else to add?
No,
Shall
I'm happy to end it.
rate it? Happy to end it.
Just the whole podcast,
Completely, yeah.
Okay, ratings. Well, I'll go first. I gave it 1 star, and that's generous. Collie?
I gave it 2. I'd say like Lakeith Stanfield was worthy of a star in himself. Maybe half a star for Stephen Merchant and half a star for that office tracking shot.
Todd?
Yeah, I went 2 stars as well.
Fair enough. Cowards. Right. Okay. The next one and the final one in Fede Alvarez's filmography. Todd, what is it? And let us know.
So, our final film is Alien Romulus, and is one of the reasons why I chose Fede Alvarez. So, fitting between the events of Alien and Aliens, Alien Romulus follows Rain, her android brother Andy, and a group of friends as they try to leave their life of labour behind. Exploring the whaling new tiny ship Renaissance to aid their escape, they encounter a familiar alien life on the Romulus module of the ship.
Okay, look. So, I mean, I will say initial thoughts. We've obviously watched this for our Oscars episode, but Todd, initial thoughts on Alien Romulus?
It's amazing. It is phenomenal, and one of the reasons why I chose, like, say, Fede Alvarez, is because I really wanted to just talk about it more. You know, we talked about it. It was the technical, for the Oscars, but I just want the opportunity to, and I'll talk to anybody about it, because I think it's a solid alien film. It's a solid horror film. It fits in with the rest of them. Performances are phenomenal. The practical effects, every element of this film works for me, and I just want more of it. I just want like the next step of it.
Good stuff. Yeah, for me, obviously, again, we watched this for the Oscars. I enjoyed it then. I enjoyed it even more this time as well. I think it's a fantastic film. It's again, I kind of touched on with the last one. The attention to detail in this is just absolutely outstanding. I think he clearly loves the franchise, clearly knows what the tone is of the Alien films, and it feels just proper like an Alien film. I really, really enjoyed it. The effects incredible, story's great, cast is fantastic and used well. It's tense. There's horror in it. There's like family drama as well, which is something that's used so well. And it's just like a really, really, really good sci-fi. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Collie?
I think this film's a masterpiece. I genuinely do. Everything you guys have said, from the casting, from the story, the practical effects, everything that's great. For me, it's a masterpiece, and obviously I can tell from you two guys that you love it as well. I can see why people don't like it. Like, I'm not being like it's completely infallible, whatever that term is, in terms of like it's not above criticism. But for me, I just personally don't care. I don't care about the cheesy callbacks and how dare they do this and this and this. Like, I think it ticks every box for me. I love the aspect of this is like the first Alien like teen slasher kind of approach. I think Fede Alvarez was just like the perfect guy, like right guy at the right time kind of thing, to make it. Kaylee Spinney like carries this film, like, don't get me wrong, but I think every member of the supporting cast, even the annoying cousin, like serve a purpose and perform their role well. And yeah, just love this film. I even was just thinking there, I was like, oh, what am I going to do after the podcast? I was like, I might even just watch this again.
I mean, let's go into the cast then. Obviously, as you say, Kaylee Spain is the sort of like the main character, I suppose. You got David Johnson, Archie Renault, Isabella Merced, who's obviously lately been in The Last of Us season 2, Spike Fern, Aileen Wu. I mean, again, it's such an incredible group of young actors. So, Colin, you touched on the actors there. Let us know about your thoughts on them.
So Kaylee Spaney's like one of those people that I go like hot and cold with. Like, I thought she was amazing in Priscilla, like so good in Priscilla. First time I seen Civil War, I think even like when we were discussing it on the podcast, I didn't really get her performance. I thought she was very wooden and her delivery and stuff, but then having subsequently watched that a number of times and then watching this, I think I've watched it 9 times according to Letterboxd. I just think that's how she is, and I'm just used to it now almost. Like, it's the delivery of the line. Like, say this time last year, if she'd have delivered the line, "You guys are insane," like the way she delivers it, it's a bit weird, but I'm kind of used to it now, so I just like not let her off with it and just like she's allowed to do that and she's above criticism, but I just think that's how she delivers lines and that's how she is. So I thought she was fantastic, especially the my favorite sequence probably in the film, like with her and Andy, is right before they do the zero gravity sequence, like where they're just like doing the dad jokes and stuff. Or the puns and stuff. I just think that's really, really good, and I think that showcases her really well, because it's like, you know, quite a touching sentimental moment, and then there's like this badass action moment like right after it, and I think it just suits her really well. I'll just touch on Andy for a little bit, and then you guys can to talk about the main 2 roles, and then we can talk about the rest of them. But I thought David Johnson was like genuinely a revelation. He does like 2 performances through the film, arguably even 3. He does like, you know, the original Andy, he does Andy with the chip in him, and then he does a kind of a hybridy version when he's like half Andy and half Brooks kind of version of Andy. His facial expressions especially were really, really good, and I'm really excited to see what he does in the future. Probably out of anybody in the cast, I'm most excited about him in the future.
Yep. I mean, I totally agree. I think his eyes, like, kind of, they've got the way that he does it, especially when he's got the chip in him, they've got like a sinisterness behind them, which I think is such a thing to do. Have you seen Rye Lane, Collie, at all? If you no, he's fantastic in that. Like, it's a totally different side to him. I would say definitely go watch that. He's brilliant in that. But yeah, I totally agree. I think the way that he seamlessly goes between, it's, as you say, like almost 3 characters, but they're like just slight differences, and he does it with his physicality as well as like the way that he kind of says things, which I think is incredible. I really enjoyed his performance in here, and I'm with you with Kaylee Spaney as well. I think I've only seen her in Civil War before, and her performance then, again, I kind of wasn't sure about it, but in this, I think she's absolutely perfect. For me, like there is obviously like kind of some delivery that's a bit strange, but like I saw it as a character choice in that she's hasn't really had parents or kind of grown up with her brother, I suppose, and is maybe a bit immature, and like the way that it's delivered is kind of in that sort of like infantile, or not infantile, but like a less mature kind of way. And I thought that kind of added to the character. So yeah, no, I think those 2 are unbelievable in this film. Todd?
Yeah, Kaylee Spaney's. I think she's fantastic. I'm really excited for what she does. If she could put in a performance like Priscilla, which was the first thing I think I encountered her in. I think that's the first thing I saw her in, which was, for my money, a boring film. But I still rated it highly because she carried the life out of it. And then she goes and does an action film like this. She's fantastic. I believe the relationships that she has, and where a lot of the Fede Alvarez stuff's been quite handholdy, this isn't. Like, there's no sort of like, there is some of it, sorry, but like her relationships with the different people, you get that feeling through her performance. But David Johnson for me is the big standout. I'm with you, Massey, on Rye Lane, and I wish I could, when I first watched this in the cinema, I could have rewound the first 10 minutes, because I know him to be this really expressive, like, in Rye Lane, you read everything on his face. And then in the first 10 minutes, or whatever it is, until he's revealed that he's an android, and he's, like, really robotic, and I was like, what the fuck's this? And then I wish I could have, like, got, oh, he's an android. Can we just start it again and let me watch it with that knowledge? Like, so, but Yeah, he's just like you say, the physicality. One of my favorite shots from this film is obviously a cinematography choice. It's also a physicality one. It's where he stood in front of the door with the lights running down, and it's when he's obviously like he's that methodical side of Andy, and he goes from this like sort of this he plods along, bless him, as like original Andy, and then he's a figure. Do you know what I mean? Like he's a threat, and it's through his physicality. He's phenomenal, and like you say, Colin, I hold my breath for the next thing because he won the BAFTA Rising Star Award, and rightly so, because he's only got great things ahead of him, but he's definitely one to watch.
Absolutely. Colin, do you want to start on the rest of them?
Yeah, so I thought Archie Renault as Tyler was really good. Kind of, it's not that he didn't have much to do, but he was just kind of the one that was like plodding on the plot more than anything. Isabella Merced is unreal. Like, she's so good. It was shown in the trailers, but obviously you weren't really to know what the scream was about. But her scream when Navarro like dies in her arms, and then it kind of touches on her scream and her performance, but also the film, like the way she screams, and then it cuts to the ship crashing, and she's just flying about and stuff. I just thought that was such an epic bit of filmmaking. And then later on, her like fear and stuff of the offspring, I think was the official name for the baby weird thing. She just like really, really comes into her own, and I'm loving her in The Last of Us at the moment. And I'm really looking forward to what she does in the future as well. Bjorn, the Spike Fern as Bjorn was really annoying. Like, his accent's annoying, but I think he's supposed to be, obviously. And there's something in the water is just iconic now. I think from the trailer to the film, it makes me laugh every time just because of the way that he says it. But he's like intentionally annoying or written to be annoying, so I thought he was good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next as well. He's kind of both touched on it, but just like such a young, exciting cast, it's going to be really cool to see what they do in the future.
Can you please do that line again?
No.
Please, that was so good.
You can have the one clip and that's it.
Right, okay. I'm gonna clip it out, and I'm just gonna put it on a loop for like a 10-hour video or something.
Yeah, as if you'll do that, because that considers actual work for you to do the podcast.
Moving on. Todd, the rest of the cast, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you on everybody. I think, like you say, Isabella Merced is ridiculous, and even from the beginning, where she's like, where she's confiding in Rain, was just like a lovely moment. I saw people complaining about the English accents, that like, oh, why have we got one woman who's got an American accent, one woman who's got or a couple of women who've got an American accent, English lads, but we're in space and there are aliens and acid blood. Like, what, can we not have had two people immigrate like to a different country? Like, is that pissed me off? But yeah, I thought you were excellent. I think Bjorn is the perfect dickhead. Like that moment with the lighter, where like that's such a dickhead thing to do, but like
it's cool though as well. Yeah, it's cool though as well.
Yeah. But it's that Billy Big Bollocks, isn't it? Like, watch what I can do type thing, and I think he did that really well. I think you're right about Archie Renault. I think he sort of is the plot device. I think the one moment for me is where Andy won't open the door to Kay.
Yeah.
When the Xenomorph's tracking her, and he's like losing his shit. Him and Kaylee Spaney losing his shit, and he's deadpan. That was his bit. That was his moment in the sun type thing, which I think was really cool. But yeah, and Eileen Wu as Navarro, like the don't let me die here. That fear. Oh my god, it was so good. And I know we'll get to the technical side of it, but that chest burst there was up there, like one for the ages type thing. Great cast, and like you say, what are they? They're all in their early 20s. Like, we've got so much more time with them, and it's a shame that they've been killed off, and that there can't be like another Alien movie with them. But and I'll get to that point at the end. But really well cast, and we've talked about miscast, and we've talked about how people have been wasted before. I don't think a single person was wasted. I think there's not a bit of there's no fat to trim. They were all excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I'm not going to touch on the point because you guys have covered it all. But I mean, just shout out to Isabella Merced. I think she was like absolute standout of the others, if you know what I mean. And I'm the same as yourself, Colin. I think she's incredible in The Last of Us 2. So, she was also in like there was a I think it's called Instant Family, which was like a film about like fostering and stuff. I had like Mark Wahlberg and I think it was Rose Byrne and stuff, and she was incredible in that as well as like an angsty teen. Such an underrated performance, and it's a film that will not leave a dry eye in the house. So definitely go back and watch that if you've not seen it, and to see more of her. But yeah, I think she is absolutely like she's one of the next stars for me. I think she's got a massive future ahead, as do all of them, of course.
She's in Superman this year, for example, like next month or whenever it comes out. Yeah, she plays Hot Girl in Superman.
Oh, I did not know that.
And she's in one of the Transformers films, funnily enough, that you said about that, Todd, earlier. And then the sequel to Sicario, she's in both of those when she's like quite a bit younger and stuff, but she's like the standout in those. So and Madam Web as well, I guess, but I wouldn't say that she's the standout in that for you, Massey.
Yeah, yeah. What do you mean by that? Dakota Johnson, yeah.
Dakota Johnson.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the technical side of things. Todd, you touched on the chest burster scene. Go for it.
Yeah, I just to introduce the X-ray machine, and to have that, like, we know, as if you've seen any sort of alien media before, or you've even encountered a trailer or whatever, you're going to have seen the chestburster scene from the original. So for her to be pushing that over and from the back and seeing that thing crawling inside of her, that there, you know what's coming, and it's still like top level fear. I mean, a lot of it again was practical. You know, the face huggers running around on those little wheels and like hiding those wheels in post is genius. For me though, one of the things, and I don't know, can sound be tactile? Is that something that can happen? Because the sound design for me, when it starts, like when the film starts, you've got the little clicks and the whirs and the beeps that are alien, and it makes me feel something. The sound design was perfect. The alien, the xenomorph design again. Even that disgusting egg on the wall that he puts the cattle prod type thing into was fantastic. Obviously, there's the elephant in the room when we're talking about technical aspects, which is Rook's character and how that was handled. And I get that a lot of people will be upset about that, and I know we've discussed it obviously during the Oscars chat. Just the more I see it, the more I think like something different could have been done. You know, I've written down when Rook has hold of Rain, it's the perfect lighting. So you know when he grabs her and it's like there's like it shadows across his face. That would have been just leave him in that shadow. Give us the idea, give us the voice. They did the best with what they could when they shown his face, but from a technical standpoint, I just think it's a marvel. I think having that, the offspring, like you say, is disgusting, but perfect. Seeing the face hugger stick its appendage down people's throats is vile, but that's it. You know,
just a Saturday night for Todd.
And on that note, I'm going to pass over to you two before I incriminate myself. Technical aspects.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's easy to talk about, obviously, you know, Ian Holm and that sort of thing. It doesn't take me out of it, which is fine. I agree. I think it could have been done differently, but it's okay. Talking about sort of like effects and being able to pull something off, the offspring for me is a massive standout, like literally. Like for it to be like done practically, it's just an absolute marvel that they were able to pull that off and make it look like, okay, it's done practically, but it also looks proper real, proper menacing. And yeah, I think that whole sequence from when we first see him, it is just like, for me, one of the high points of the film is to get that on screen in a practical way, which could have easily been CGI like the whole time. for them to do it that way, I think is speaks volumes for, again, the sort of like the consistency of Fede Alvarez wanting to keep this going through, like the practical side of things, and his attention to detail. Yeah, I thought that was for me a standout. And just again, talking about smaller effects, but like just little things like the computer and the login screens and stuff, which I believe they took from Isolation, or they took sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like
Inspiration, yeah, from Isolation
Sort
and
of,
stuff, which I think fits perfectly into just the world. So yeah, absolutely.
it's the save points from Isolation. Sorry, just before we go to
Right.
Collie, it's the So I've watched it back and I can't see them in Alien. I might be just being a bit thick, but if you haven't played Alien Isolation, to save the game, you have to pull a lever like 3 times, and then it goes to the save screen. That's there, and they pull it 3 times, and like you say, a lovely little nod, lovely little sort of reverence for the franchise.
Collie, technical.
I think you've touched on quite a lot of the technical stuff. I think just the balance between like CGI and practical was really, really good. I thought some of my favourite shots were actually of like the space ring, like when it was crashing into the ring and stuff. I thought that was really good. The shot when they're first like going up in the ship, like that whole sequence of them going up in the ship. Here comes, is it the crunch, he calls it, or whatever?
Yeah.
When they're like shooting up into space. I thought that was really cool, touching on the lighter scene that you mentioned earlier, Todd. And then just to like the kind of more of just a cinematography thing, but like when Rain first sees the sun and stuff like that, I think that was really, really cool and well done. So yeah, I just think he did really well, and he kind of took this probably from like Evil Dead throughout his other films and stuff through to this, is like the balance between practical and CGI is a really, like, it's a fine balance, and I think he nails it in this.
Absolutely. Okay. Anything else you want to touch on with Romulus? Or are you happy enough with what we covered?
Just as a franchise point of view, like, there is a sequel that's like being developed, and all the news is at the minute is that Fede Alvarez is likely to return, so there's no like confirmation. But for me, with Alien, and it's the same with Evil Dead, because Evil Dead Rise and then the new one coming out 2026, like, I can't wait for a sequel, especially with Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson. That's great. But I would just have, I know we're getting Alien Earth as well this year, aren't we? Like the TV series on Disney. But I would just love stories in this world. I will just take, doesn't have to be a direct sequel, just other groups encountering the xenomorph over and over again. And I think it's such a vast world to explore. I'm excited for what comes next for Alien.
Just on the future of it, in February, he confirmed that he was writing the script for the sequel.
Okay.
And it would be the next project that he's working on that begins production, hopefully later this year. So it's a bit more confirmation than maybe what you'd read or whatever, but that was just on the wiki that I read.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent.
Brilliant. Good. Okay, let's go into ratings then, yeah? Happy enough to move on to ratings? Perfect, cool. So I'll go first. I gave it 4.5. It was a half star bumped up from when I first watched it, so yeah. Collie?
It's a 5 for me.
Todd?
Yeah, 5 for me as well.
Fair enough. And I don't... I could see it being a 5 for me at some point if I watch it again, so yeah, good stuff. Okay, shall we rank our Fede Alvarez films then, and see where they go? I mean, I can go first because it's probably kind of obvious for me. I've got Romulus first, Don't Breathe second, Evil Dead, and then Spider's Webs bottom. But I mean, Spider's Web is bottom, definitely. But there's a massive jump between 2, 3, and 4, and 1. So yeah. Collie?
Romulus is 1 for me, then Evil Dead, Don't Breathe, and Girl in the Spider's Web.
And Todd?
Yeah, Alien Romulus is top because it's such a well-made film as well, where Evil Dead has its like moment, but it's a comfort film. So Alien Romulus, Evil Dead, Don't Breathe, and then again, like you said, a significant jump to The Girl in the Spider's Web.
Well, all right. Good stuff. There we are. Fede Alvarez is done. Todd, are you happy with the outcome of that?
I've had a great time. Any chance to talk about blood, guts, and gore, like I'm here. Do you know what I mean? That's
well, yeah. Whatever. Whatever. Okay, right, let's announce the next director in our episode. So it was my choice this time, and I've got a goodie for you guys. The next director we're going to be discussing is Mr. Mel Gibson as a director, not as an actor. So the films we're going to cover are The Man Without a Face, Braveheart, The Passion of the Christ, Apocalypto, Hacksaw Ridge, and then 2025's Flight Risk with a chrome-domed Marky Wahlberg.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers, as if it wasn't in the trailer and the market and stuff. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for Mel Gibson. What are you guys thinking, just first off, and Mel Gibson?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've seen the majority of his films. I think there's two that I've not seen, so I'm looking forward to that.
So I'm the other way. I think there's 2 that I have seen, possibly 3. But yeah, it's going to be quite an experience. And like I say, especially Flight Risk, I'm excited for. I've held off specifically for it.
Yeah, I can't wait. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much again for watching and listening. If you are watching on YouTube, please remember to like, subscribe. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of Fede Alvarez and his dearth of crap films, and then one that's very good, and what you're thinking about Mel Gibson going forward. Also, if you're listening on Spotify, then please remember to follow us and give us a 5-star review, because we are the best podcast that you will listen to. But guys, thank you so much for being here with us. We'll see you in the next one. Mel Gibson, goodbye and take care. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.